Arguably, I think the phrase I've heard students say the most in school is "I want to go home," and I could not agree more. Homes are places that give us comfort, a sense of belonging and realization whenever we're there. Although Korea doesn't have a lot of actual houses compared to apartments, they still serve the same purpose. However, especially in nations like the US where houses are more common than apartments, getting a house to comfortably live in and call a home is a burdensome task for many people. Not only are they getting more and more expensive to purchase, but also pose an increasing threat to the health of the environment. Therefore, for our topic of sustainable homes, we decided on the message that we must look for alternative houses that contribute to the conservation of the environment and are less costly, ultimately leading to a greener future and a better living condition for humanity. And in order to talk about ways to approach sustainable homes, let's take a closer look at one major method: sustainable materials. The common perception is that houses are made with concrete, bricks, steel, wood, or other sturdy materials that can withstand much stress. But what if I told you that this wasn't necessary? In the production of concrete, materials such as limestone or clay are fired up in a kiln, emitting 0.93 pounds of carbon dioxide for a single pound of concrete, according to research from Princeton University. Obviously, this causes a significant amount of harm to the environment. Fortunately, we have much better substitutes to build houses with, and I will be introducing you to these amazing substitutes. Let's begin with cob. Cob is an environmentally friendly material that is made by mixing sand, clay, and straw into a putty. Because there is no burning involved in the making of this material, it does not cause any pollution. Moreover, they are much more economically efficient than concrete houses, costing around 15,000 to 20,000 US dollars to build a cob house somewhere between 700 to 800 square feet. According to an article published by Nick Teluzzi from Forbes magazine, using standard materials to build a conventional house this big would cost you around 150 US dollars per square foot, totaling up to 105,000 US dollars to 120,000 US dollars for the same square footage. It is almost 6 times cheaper than a conventional home of the same square footage. Most importantly, the main characteristic of cob houses is that they are very versatile in design. Because they are made into a sort of putty like Play-Doh, builders can choose the structure of the house however they want, and can include any sort of decorations within the houses with much freedom. The main concern people may come up with is regarding the strength of the material, whether it can, actually withstand extreme weather conditions such as rain or snow. According to a company specializing in cob housing called the Cob Cottage Company, cob is very resistant to weathering due to its porous nature and can withstand long periods of rain without weakening, especially if it's coated with a lime sand plaster on the outside. So therefore, cob houses are more than adequate for housing, even in regions with high precipitation and wind. Another great material is straw bale. You might think, straw. I thought people made houses with that centuries ago. Yes, but there's something more to straw bales other than the history. As you may know, straw bales are basically just blocks of straw made as, byproducts of farming grains. Naturally, it takes essentially no artificial production to make this material, making it very green and nature-friendly, while also being able to help local farmers by providing them with another source of income. The straw bales constitute the inside walls of the houses. They are first pinned together with bamboo or wood pins for stability, then the inner side is covered with clay mixed with finely chopped straw, and the outer side is covered with lime and mason sand. This may not sound like much, but it comes with a number of benefits. First and foremost, straw bales are amazing at insulation. The measurement used to measure the resistance to thermal flow in the material, or simply the ability to insulate, is R. The national standard in the US for the R value in houses is minimum 19. Straw bale houses, however, have an R value ranging from 36 to 48. Clearly, straw bales are much better insulation than most normal houses. Moreover, another benefit that straw bales provide is that they are also very cost efficient. According to an organization dedicated to building straw bale houses called strawbale.com, this material may cost a bit more than cobs as they're sometimes built using a contractor, but they save a significant amount of money in heating and cooling throughout the year, about 75% less than a conventional home. Hence, this can also be a great substitute for conventional homes at a much lower cost. An honorable mention is the Haran beehive houses, and the name comes from their place of origin, Haran, Turkey. They are made mostly from mud and hay, and an opening at the top of the house that lets the heat escape, and they have a conical shape that helps wash downpour away. And this structure helps the house with insulation and keeping the temperature relatively cool compared to its surrounding region. They're also great means of preserving the tradition of these regions. Last but not least, there are 3D printed houses. 3D printing has become such a big field in recent years, printing not only daily items but also foods, artificial organs, and now houses. 3D printed houses are essentially just houses whose walls and overall structure were built using a giant 3D printer. Many people may look at this very skeptically, but it is surprisingly comes with multiple benefits that people fail to realize. First of all, they're very versatile in design as well. Because you are first digitally constructing a 3D model of the house, you can modify the house's shape in any way you want. After doing so, the actual printing of the house takes a very short time, ranging from only 10 days for a new home using alternate materials to at most 45 days for a multi-room 2-story villa, according to an organization specializing in 3D printing called Nico Industries. Not only does it cost less than the conventional house as well, you cannot tell the difference from the inside. Most importantly, it can be printed using a variety of materials, namely hempcrete. Hempcrete is a material made from mixing limestone and hemp, which is a type of plant. Hempcrete proposes a great substitute material for building, especially in recent years where sand used in the building industry is actually at a shortage. And as hemp is a type of plant, it absorbs CO2 out of the environment, making it very nature-friendly. It is also 3 times as elastic as regular concrete, and 3D printing with this material only costs between $4,000 to $10,000, much more reasonable than a conventional house, I'd say. Ultimately, these alternative materials pose a much better solution to the conventional houses we live in today.
Tiny houses have become an important topic in the area of sustainable housing, altering the discussion on other living options completely. These little residences provide a response to the problems of dwelling as well as show commitment to sustainable ways of life and environmental welfare. In order to identify several advantages and implications that come with tiny house life, we will examine a range of sources and real-life instances. Lena's case is a strong indication that staying in a tiny house has economic incentives. By going for cheaper alternatives in construction and recycling materials, she managed to avoid rising prices associated with traditional homes. Such strategies also added up to sustainability through resource recovery. Furthermore, Lena's creativity when it comes to saving space illustrates how small houses can be efficient. One can live without any compromise on comfort or practicality in small homes. Alike, Mark's journey toward minimalism exemplifies the possibility of self-sustenance and eco-consciousness inherent in living bespectacled by small houses. Such an off-the-grid lifestyle that runs on solar energy and captures rainwater represents an attempt to minimize environmental harm with a view of adopting a simpler life. Thus, these real-life stories show how tiny homes may enable individuals to engage in more sustainable and meaningful ways of life that promote deeper connections with the world around them, as well as reduce their ecological footprint. Tiny house living has implications beyond personal experiences and speaks to larger societal and environmental issues. For instance, initiatives like Detroit's Cass Community Social Services Tiny Homes projects are perfect examples of how tiny houses can confront socio-economic problems. These schemes provide reasonably priced accommodation for marginalized populations, including the ex-homeless, ex-convicts, and low-income aged persons, which not only addresses immediate housing crisis but also creates long-term stability within communities. In addition, there has been a massive upsurge in the tiny house movement lately due to its numerous benefits that are becoming more important. The versatile and sustainable nature of tiny houses makes it possible for them to provide various needs, from encouraging minimalism to promoting an organized life, to working towards reduced environmental impact. In such cases, they act as supplementary establishments granny flats or even main residential places accommodating guests, providing income through renting out areas of dwelling, or they may be converted into art studios and home offices. Moreover, this inherent mobility adds to its appeal because people can become nomads or simply enjoy moving around whenever they want. Tiny houses on wheels or those built on foundation are unmatched when it comes to personal freedom and flexibility, which allows individuals to live nearer to nature or explore new territories without being tied down somewhere else. In essence, the small house movement is all about a move toward more thoughtful and mindful living. It helps people reconsider their desires and priorities, facilitating deeper understanding for sustainable lifestyle, simplicity, and community. Living tiny can bring about financial liberation as well as freedom from tyranny of materialism that allows individuals to concentrate on meaningful connections, their artistic endeavors, and personal growth. The rise in tiny housing constitutes a paradigm shift in both housing design and life choices as an intriguing substitute to traditional living arrangements. From economic advantages to environmental sustainability to social empowerment and individual well-being, tiny houses epitomize simplicity, efficiency, and community. With evolving development across this sector, its effect on housing today, society at large, and the environment itself will be pivotal in leading towards a future that is more sustainable for generations ahead.
The last sustainable housing method that I'm going to introduce is conversion houses. The first example that I will present is shipping container houses. Instead of building their own houses, people use old shipping containers to make their own house. One advantage of the container houses is that it is trendy with a nice industrial design. Also, considering the fact that thousands of containers are being discarded every year, shipping container houses carries a sense of socially being responsible and being environmentally conscious. Here is a real-life example of a shipping container house. A married couple has an off-grid house made by used shipping containers because they had difficulties in maintaining a large house where having a 3-bedroom house was too big. As a result, inspired by a YouTube video, the couple decided to live in a shipping container house. They successfully repurposed 2 40-foot shipping containers into a spacious and functional off-grid home. Also, a high-pitched roof source for solar panels, a 6-kilowatt solar system, and a water collection system were incorporated as well. The kids' room and bathroom were also designed with functional and cozy spaces. The family has been living in the home for nearly 3 years and has managed to turn the metal boxes into a beautiful and functional family home, costing approximately $150,000 and taking 9 months to complete. However, the family was seen as reckless and crazy by people around them. Despite the challenges, the family is happy with their decision and the practicality of their new off-grid home. The experience offers valuable insights into the adaptability of unconventional materials and construction methods. Another type conversion housing is using vans as houses. Here, a used box truck is transformed into a stealthy house known as a stealth van studio. Jason, a grad student, built a van to live affordably in the city. He designed and constructed most of the space himself, with help from a friend for intricate parts. The van includes a loft area, a 12-gallon fuel tank for the heater, and dual tires for safety. The stealth van includes a side vent for airflow, a pay shield that can be a stage, and a gray water tank. The kitchen, with ample counter space and unique storage solutions, is a functional part of the living space. Jason emphasizes the importance of accessibility and functionality, sharing his satisfaction with the sink, induction cooktop, and fridge. Despite some limitations, the usage of vans and RVs as sustainable living spaces emphasizes functionality, low expenses, and adaptability. The advantage of such alternative living spaces include reduced environmental impact, mobility, and lower costs compared to traditional housing, which shows how conversion housing is a nice option to choose. For another example about van houses, Brenda shows her 2012 Ford E350 van named Copper. In the van house, there is the installation of a wall and pocket door for separation, storage solutions for shoes and clothing, and safety precautions. Brenda also shows our office setup, bathroom and kitchen, highlighting unique features like a hidden fire extinguisher and an extendable faucet. She uses Velcro and fishing wire to keep items secure while driving and explains her appliance choices. The bedroom setup, including storage for pots and pans, a custom dog home, and a multifunctional bed, represents how there is enough room to contain all housing rooms and features. The experience of working from home with a water filling area, outdoor table, and storage for hiking and camping gear shows how conversion housing can provide us a satisfactory lifestyle. But there are such limitations. One of them would be health issues, where shipping containers used for housing might have carried very dangerous chemicals as well as toxic paints that contain phosphorus and chromium. Some other restraints can be mentioned would be economic issues, where conversional housing requires quite a lot of money for steel reinforcements and transporting containers inland, which shows that wood construction might be even cheaper. Finally, there are environmental downsides such as carbon footprint that is created from steel constructions and the necessary usage of uneco-friendly insulation materials, since cotton can be used for shipping containers. However, this counterclaim doesn't stand when it comes to the last method that would be introduced, which is office housing. Due to recent global pandemics, several employers adopted remote and hybrid work, where downtowns that were once bustling with office workers became a thing of the past. Now, hundreds of office buildings across the country sit empty or unutilized. According to a recent estimate from the National Association of Realtors, 12.5% of office space is vacant across the nation, with nearly 1 billion square feet in total vacant office space, indicating an oversupply of office buildings. About 35% of workers who can do their job from home were still working entirely remotely as of March 2023, with an additional 40% of now on a hybrid schedule, only going to the office some of the time. Office vacancies in older buildings will likely continue as the demand for office space is expected to decrease, which represents an opportunity to convert these buildings into residential housing. By converting offices to housing, cities can leverage existing buildings and transform them to meet today's housing needs without having to demolish and rebuild from scratch. There would be no such environmental issues as well as economic issues that are created from constructing conversional houses that were mentioned before, since the whole building with necessary structures are already built. Transforming vacant office spaces into residential housing not only addresses the growing demand for housing, but also revitalizes urban landscapes, fostering a more sustainable and vibrant community. So people, although we're only students, let us start considering living in alternative houses for a better world in the future, where we are going to live the rest of our lives. And for people out there in the world, why don't we actually start building things that help the environment and not destroy it? Thank you so much for listening.